absolutely love it. One of the things that's really been interesting to see is actually having the story told about the role that Taiwan plays in the semiconductor industry, thing one. Thing two, understanding how this island is a powerhouse. And seeing it firsthand has been something that's incredible.
And Mike, today, even commercial chips and consumer electronics risk being adverted for military use and facing sanctions. How can Taiwanese tech firms avoid crossing U.S. regulatory red lines?
I mean, it's not a very sexy answer, but know your customer. It's really simple. And so if you're a Taiwanese company, asking tough questions about who the customer is step one. After that, I think you have to be thoughtful about what industries you want to be involved in. But you're absolutely right. At the core of it, a semiconductor is a dual-use piece of technology. I mean, it's really just a switch. If you ever watch a YouTube video where you want to learn what a semiconductor is, it's actually pretty fascinating. Literally, they tell you it is just a switch, like the wall light switch here. And so that has a lot of powerful uses when you're thinking about electronics. And so knowing your customer, I think, is the most important step.
Mm-hmm. So, Mr. Shiver, how can Washington prevent overregulation?
Well, we struggle with that in our own domestic marketplace, and you know, I think it's a balance that we have to achieve, and that's part of the democratic process is to work through that. You know, I do think the rapid advancement of technologies is sort of taking care of that problem, right? We're having conversations about regulating AI while AI is taking off and moving into, you know, follow-on generations of capabilities. So I think it's going to be part of our reality that people are always going to want to regulate, and there are good reasons for that when it comes to safety, when it comes to controls. But you know, I think the pace of advancement right now, that's not the biggest problem in U.S.-Taiwan cooperation.
I always think that overregulation is one of these terms that people throw around that I always want to push back on, because if you have urgency, you can push through these issues. If you have focus of mind, you can push through these things. And so overregulation is something that you hear a lot from industry, but I think a lot of times it's just about figuring out that partnership, that public-private partnership between government and industry, and figuring out how you're going to push through these problems.
Mm-hmm. So how can the U.S. national security community protect critical technology without hurting partners like Taiwan?
Taiwan's a critical partner. I wouldn't want to make these efforts without Taiwan being involved in the conversation at some level. I think it's a very dynamic environment, and the notion of export controls that we had when I started in this business in the 1980s and early 1990s, where you could identify the critical technologies, they were essentially in a box that you could control the export of, and you could do so in a way that was fit for purpose in terms of technological advancement. If you controlled something for months or years, you were probably thwarting the acquisition of that technology by another country. But now things are so rapid and so dynamic that our export controls discussions have to be equally dynamic, which is hard. I mean, it's just hard. And I think one of the reasons we sort of we sort of move to, you know, we're just going to out-innovate is because the ability to thwart China or anybody else from developing similar technologies is just too difficult through the old-fashioned export control regimes. I do agree with Mike. They work, it's critical, but it's very challenging in this environment.
Yeah. Mike, as China weaponizes critical minerals and market access, how can U.S. and Taiwanese legislative channels work together to build up?
Listen, I think having an open channel between the U.S. Congress and the Taiwanese government is vital. I think Tucker does a great job in Washington. And the best way to work through anything or to find sort of areas of cooperation are through conversations and talking. And I think a lot of that's happening. You know, we're not in government anymore, but making sure that your friends and partners that are outside of government are also involved in those conversations, I think is incredibly useful.
Mm-hmm. So, Mr. Schaefer, how can U.S. defense institutes protect the democratic supply chain from pressure? And what should the U.S. and Taiwan do together next?
I think we don't put enough thought into the vulnerability that many of these countries have. And we view it as almost these countries are left alone on an island when they come under pressure from China. We need to think more holistically about counter-coercion and how we can demonstrate the benefits of being part of a red-free supply chain and how we can provide assurances, how we can provide alternate markets rather than just over-reliance on the Chinese market. I mean, these are hard problems, but they're not impossible. And it starts with, conversations and trust building where, we're not going to leave a country on an island by itself when it comes under pressure from China.
So, Mike, as Washington manages U.S.-China risk, concerns persist in Taiwan about becoming a bargain chips. What message would you like to convey to the people of Taiwan?
Well, first off, what message would I like to convey to the people of Taiwan? I mean, U.S.-Taiwan cooperation is at an all-time high. And so I would say, let's keep working together and let's continue to find opportunities to work together. I think you touched on one of them in your earlier questions. How do we talk about co-production, co-development? These are all very interesting opportunities and areas for potential cooperation. And how do we ensure those conversations are happening at pace? And how do we make sure they're happening with urgency?
Yeah. So, Mr. Sherber, what message would you like to convey to the people of Taiwan? And how can the United States assure that Taiwan's interests are never traded away?
Well, I think Taiwan often has a small country mindset, and that's understandable. It's a small island, 23 million people. But look, it's our fourth largest trading partner in the world. It's the global leader in the production of advanced chips. It's a global good citizen when it comes to humanitarian affairs, when it comes to democracy promotion, when it comes to promoting the rights of women. I mean, it's such a success story that I think Taiwan has to have a little more confidence, and it's okay to project a little more confidence, not just that small country mentality. And I think for the United States, look, our track record is pretty good. Yes, we have these inflection points like 1979, but we've been a very reliable partner when it comes to security assistance. We've been a reliable economic partner. We just worked out that trade agreement. When we were here last year, there was a lot of anxiety about tariffs and about the state of the trade relationship. So I think take a look at the track record, have a little more confidence and trust, and really continue to project that confidence. The world would be a diminished place, and the United States would be a diminished country if Taiwan were to be absorbed by China. And that's a story that needs to be told and understood.
Mr. Kagan, U.S.-Taiwan tech and defense cooperation is currently at its peak. What new legislative mechanism is Congress pursuing to ensure the partnership remains resilient, regardless of the future elections or domestic political shifts?
Listen, I think Congress is constantly looking at ways to try to figure out how to deepen the relationship and broaden the relationship. And by that, I mean, we talked about Japan and the Philippines earlier. How do we have that conversation? I think those are areas of opportunity, and I know those are areas that Congress is looking at. I think it's also just making sure that we have, members of Congress coming here and members of the Taiwanese government coming to the United States and having those conversations in both places. And so those kind of conversations, those kinds of ideas really will undoubtedly produce sort of new ideas and new opportunities. Again, I really want to foot stomp. Co-production is a real opportunity in that the manufacturing capacity of this island is incredible, and it's something that needs to be tapped into.
So, Mr. Sherber, can I have your point about this issue?
Congress has been bipartisan on support for Taiwan for decades, so I'm not concerned about change of party or change of leadership in the House or the Senate. I think Congress is also in a mode where they are willing to listen to good ideas, creative ideas. In the work we do advising Congress, there's always a very open door when it comes to our suggestions and policy recommendations. I think it's a matter of Congress really being interested in the different initiatives of how to support U.S.-Taiwan relations. It's not the reverse, how we, sort of move on or abandon or forget. There's no market for that.
Mike, with your intensive senator experience, how has bipartisan support for Taiwan been maintained in Washington? And what practical advice would you give Taiwanese lawmakers to building long-term institutional relationship with key U.S. congressional committees?
I mean, Randy kind of stole my thunder there on the bipartisan cooperation. I think he's right. There has been a long-standing bipartisan tradition on Taiwan issues in the Congress, and I think I touched on this earlier. Making sure that our friends at TechRo continue to talk to people in the Democratic Party and the Republican Party, which they do, is an important part of that process. I think making sure that you tell your story in Washington. Whether it's attending events. In fact, earlier this year, I was at an event with Randy, actually, the Special Competitive Studies Project, where your ambassador was there, and doing those kind of things, telling the story of Taiwan and telling that story with Democrats and Republicans there is the most important thing you can do.
Yeah. So, Mr. Sherber, I mean, just with key U.S. congressional committees to strengthen future economics, technology, and security cooperation.
In my experience, they are all open to ideas, initiatives, suggestions. Part of what we do in our work advising Congress is forward those. I think the spirit of wanting to move those good ideas and initiatives to legislation is there across all those committees. So I'm optimistic that our Congress, in any of the committees you mentioned, would want to seize upon good suggestions and good ideas to strengthen the relationship.
Okay. That's all the time we have for today. But in the end, what do you have to share some the message or anything for the audience for the Taiwan?
Well, I've been traveling to Taiwan since 1995, so over 30 years. And what I've seen is nothing short of remarkable. I saw the democratization of Taiwan with the first direct election for president in March 1996, 30 years ago, and the transition of the economy to a high-tech powerhouse economy. I've seen Taiwan, despite diplomatic isolation, make itself known in the world through its good global citizenship, through its economic power, but also how it behaves on the world stage. So I've seen a trajectory that gives me a lot of confidence and hope about the future.
It seems very familiar with Taiwan. How many times you arrived here?
I don't know the answer to that. Three or four times a year for 30 plus years. So
I know you can speak the Mandarin or Chinese.
一点，我会学一点中文。
Wow. Okay. Can you share more?
What would you like me to say? Let's see.
Let's see.
I didn't tell you my Chinese name. 我的中文名字是薛瑞福。
Yeah, I know.
Oh, you know, but I'm
in Taiwan, there's a famous name, 薛瑞福。
很有名的名字。
很有名，非常有名。尤其这几天 ，especially these days, it's very very famous your name.
谢谢。
我差点讲台语啊，应该
Or
还
I
是
think
问
in
的
Chinese I should say 不是 no yeah right 不是
不是有特别喜欢吃的东西，什么样的食物你觉得好吃
Okay, you lost me.
What's your favorite about in Taiwan? What's your favorite? Yeah,
That's a hard one.
Onsen or the 臭豆腐 or something you like to eat.
Oh boy, I mean, people are amazing. Particularly, spending a lot of time in China too. It's a breath of fresh air to go into a government meeting and actually have them give you candid answers and a candid discussion. But the food's hard to beat too.
Yeah. How about Mr. Keg?
Well, the best part about Randy's answer was he reminds me how old he is. And I always enjoy that part. This is my third or fourth time to Taiwan.
Third?
Yes, absolutely love it. I think I came for the first time in the late 2010s, maybe the early 2020s. And one of the things that's really been interesting to see is actually having the story told about the role that Taiwan plays in the semiconductor industry, thing one. Thing two, understanding how this island is a powerhouse and seeing it firsthand has been something that's incredible. And then I have to say the same thing as Randy. The food is absolutely incredible.
How about the China? How many times you have been there?
Twice.
twice. So can you compare with what's different about the people?
I don't have anything fun to say there. I would say that the comment that Randy made is actually the one that is most sort of acute in my mind, which is there's not a level of frankness in the engagements that you would hope to have. And it's frustrating when you do that, but I think it's important to keep talking and sort of try to understand what people's motivations are and how you can sort of understand them better.
I think how many times have you been to Beijing? Many times. It's very often, right?
Not as much as Taiwan, but still more than I know. Probably half that, 40 times, 35, 40 times. I don't know.
Okay. Thank you so much. That's all the time we have for today, Mr. Schaefer and Mike. Thank you both of your source insights. Your perspective have given us a much clearer understanding and today's complete international landscape and what is the means for Taiwan. We truly appreciate your time and hope to welcome you back again very soon. And thank you to everyone to watching. Don't forget to subscribe and share your thoughts in the comments. We will see you next time on Real Talk. Thank you. Thank
Thanks
you so
for
much.
having us.
Thank you.
Okay.